A simple woman knows who she is and refuses to let the world define her. In a society that constantly pressures us to fit into molds, to conform to standards that were never made with us in mind, this woman stands firm in her identity. She doesn't find her worth in external validation or fleeting trends. Instead, she anchors herself in something far deeper: her character, her values, and her purpose. Her identity isn't tied to the clothes she wears, the car she drives, or the circle she walks in. It's not about titles or recognition. It's about the substance of her soul, the values she carries, and the unshakable truth of who she is when no one else is watching. She knows that beauty fades, wealth can come and go, and applause is temporary. But identity, true identity, is eternal. This kind of woman doesn't waver in the face of opinions or criticism. She knows that the world is quick to assign labels, to judge based on appearances or circumstances, but she refuses to let those labels stick. She understands that her identity isn't up for debate. It's not something others can take away because they didn't give it to her in the first place. When challenges arise, her sense of identity becomes her compass. She doesn't lose herself in the chaos. Instead, she stands rooted like a tree planted by the water, unshaken by the storms that come her way. Her identity gives her the confidence to say no to what doesn't align with her values and yes to what does, even when it's difficult, even when it costs her something. She isn't afraid of being misunderstood because she understands herself. She doesn't feel the need to explain herself to everyone or gain the approval of the crowd. Her strength lies in knowing that she was created for a unique purpose, and she walks in that purpose without hesitation. Her identity empowers her to rise above comparison, which is one of the greatest traps of our time. She doesn't measure herself against others because she knows she is one of a kind. She doesn't strive to be better than someone else. She strives to be the best version of herself. This sense of identity also gives her freedom from the weight of expectations that don't serve her. Freedom from the need to prove herself. Freedom from the fear of failure. She walks in this freedom not arrogantly, but with a quiet assurance that her worth is not tied to her performance or the opinions of others. To know who you are is one of the greatest powers you can possess, and a simple woman understands this truth. Her identity is her foundation, her strength, and her guiding light. Standards are not just rules, they are the boundaries that protect your peace, define your values, and reflect your self-worth. A simple woman with big standards understands this at her core. She knows that her standards are not suggestions or aspirations, they are non-negotiable truths that guide her life. They are the filter through which she makes decisions, builds relationships, and measures opportunities. Her standards are not born out of arrogance or entitlement, but from a deep understanding of her value. She knows that lowering her standards for the sake of convenience or approval only leads to regret. For her, it's not about being difficult or demanding, it's about being intentional. She refuses to allow situations or people to make her question what she deserves because her standards are rooted in self-respect and a commitment to living authentically. She doesn't apologize for having big standards. She understands that in a world that often glorifies compromise and mediocrity, maintaining high standards can make her stand out, and sometimes that makes others uncomfortable. But she is not here to conform or to appease. She is here to stand firm in what she believes is right for her life. Her standards apply to every aspect of her life, from her personal relationships to her professional endeavors. When it comes to relationships, she knows the kind of love, respect, and partnership she deserves. She won't settle for less just to avoid being alone. She'd rather wait for what aligns with her values than rush into something that doesn't honor her worth. She doesn't engage in friendships that drain her energy or compromise her integrity, and she doesn't tolerate disrespect, no matter how small it might seem. In her work, she holds herself to a high standard of excellence and expects the same from those around her. She doesn't accept shortcuts or half-hearted efforts. She understands that the quality of her work reflects her character, and she takes pride in doing things the right way, even when it's harder or takes longer. Her standards are also a reflection of her vision for the future. She doesn't make decisions based on temporary emotions or fleeting circumstances. She looks at the bigger picture and asks herself whether this aligns with her purpose, her goals, and her values. She knows that every compromise chips away at that vision, and she guards it fiercely. When people try to challenge her standards or push her to compromise, she doesn't waver. She doesn't feel the need to argue or defend herself. Her actions speak louder than words. By living her life according to her standards, she sets an example for others and inspires them to do the same. She understands that not everyone will agree with her standards, and that's okay. She isn't trying to please everyone. She knows that the right people, the ones who truly value her, will respect her standards, not question them. And she also knows that the wrong people will reveal themselves when they push against those boundaries. And she lets them go without hesitation. Having big standards isn't about being rigid or yielding. It's about staying true to who you are. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of respect, kindness, and excellence, and refusing to accept anything less. Simplicity is not a weakness, it is a choice, a discipline, and a form of power that many overlook. A simple woman understands this truth deeply. She has learned that life becomes cluttered not just with things, but with unnecessary commitments, distractions, and noise that pull her away from what truly matters. Simplicity is her way of cutting through the chaos to focus on the essence of what makes life meaningful. A simple woman does not equate simplicity with lack. Simplicity is not about having less, but about choosing better. She knows that life is not measured by the quantity of her possessions or the busyness of her schedule, but by the quality of her relationships, the depth of her purpose, and the peace in her soul. Her strength lies in her ability to discern what truly adds value to her life and to let go of everything that doesn't. In a world that constantly tells us to do more, buy more, and be more, she dares to step back and ask what is really necessary. What is really meaningful? She knows that true strength is not found in accumulation, but in clarity. She doesn't let the world define her success by material things or fleeting achievements. Instead, she measures her life by the love she gives, the impact she makes, and the joy she experiences in the little moments. Her simplicity extends to the way she carries herself. She doesn't need flashy gestures or loud proclamations to prove her worth. Her confidence is quiet but unshakable, rooted in knowing who she is and what she stands for. She doesn't seek to impress others with extravagance. She knows her presence, her wisdom, and her authenticity speak louder than anything material ever could. Simplicity gives her freedom, the freedom to say no to things that drain her energy, the freedom to pursue the things that light up her soul, and the freedom to focus on what truly matters. She understands that when her life is cluttered with too much, whether it's physical stuff, emotional baggage, or unnecessary obligations, she cannot fully embrace her purpose. Simplicity is her way of creating space for the things that align with her values and her vision for her life. Her strength and simplicity is also evident in her ability to adapt and endure. Life is full of challenges and uncertainties, but her uncomplicated approach allows her to face them with resilience. She doesn't get caught up in overthinking or overreacting. Instead, she focuses on what she can control and lets go of what she cannot. Her simplicity gives her clarity and calm in the midst of chaos, enabling her to find solutions and move forward. Simplicity also shows in her relationships. She doesn't complicate them with unnecessary drama or pretense. She values honesty, kindness, and connection over appearances or status. She surrounds herself with people who uplift her and shares her energy with those who truly matter. Her strength lies in her ability to love deeply and authentically without needing to prove anything to anyone. She knows that simplicity is not always easy. It requires intentionality and a willingness to go against the grain. It takes strength to walk away from what doesn't serve her, to resist the pull of comparison, and to choose peace over perfection. But she understands that this strength is what allows her to live a life of meaning, balance, and purpose. Her simplicity is not a limitation, it is her superpower. It allows her to stay grounded, focused, and true to herself in a world that constantly tries to pull her in 100 different directions. It's the foundation of her strength, the source of her resilience, and the key to her joy. A simple woman with big standards understands the profound difference between legacy and labels. Labels are temporary, fleeting, and often assigned by others. They are the titles we wear, the roles we play, and the opinions people project onto us. But a legacy is eternal. It is the impact you leave behind, the ripple effect of your life on the world, and the story that continues to be told long after you're gone. She does not live her life chasing labels. She knows that labels can be limiting, confining her to the expectations and perceptions of others. A label might call her a wife, a mother, an employee, or a friend, but she knows she is so much more than any one of these roles. She refuses to be boxed in by societal definitions of success or worth. Instead, she focuses on the deeper, lasting work of building a life that speaks for itself. Her energy is not spent on seeking recognition, titles, or applause. She understands that these things, while flattering in the moment, are often shallow and temporary. Instead, she pours her time, heart, and effort into things that matter, the relationships she nurtures, the values she instills, and the lives she touches. Her legacy is built brick by brick, not in grand gestures, but in quiet, consistent acts of kindness, strength, and purpose. She knows that a legacy is not about perfection, it's about authenticity. She isn't concerned with creating an image that looks good on the surface but falls apart under scrutiny. She is more interested in being real, even if it means exposing her flaws and failures. She knows that her true impact comes from her ability to inspire others, not by pretending to be flawless, but by showing what it means to rise above challenges, live with integrity, and stay true to her values. This woman also recognizes that building a legacy requires long-term thinking. She doesn't make decisions based on instant gratification or temporary rewards. Instead, she asks herself how her choices today will affect tomorrow. She is intentional about the seeds she plants, knowing that some of them may not bloom in her lifetime, but will still bear fruit for generations to come. Her legacy is deeply tied to the values she lives by. She doesn't just talk about kindness, generosity, or perseverance, she embodies them. She doesn't just teach her children or her community what is right, she shows them through her actions. Her life becomes a living testament to the principles she holds dear, and it is through this example that her legacy is solidified. She also understands that her legacy isn't confined to her family or immediate circle. Every interaction, every word, every decision has the potential to create ripples far beyond what she can see. She carries herself with this awareness, knowing that even small acts of kindness or moments of courage can inspire others in ways she may never fully realize. This focus on legacy over labels frees her from the pressure to conform to societal standards of success. She doesn't need to prove herself to anyone because she is not living for the approval of others. She measures her life not by what she gains, but by what she gives. Not by how many people know her name, but by how many lives she has touched. A simple woman with big standards does not let the world define her legacy for her. She knows it is hers to shape, hers to build, and hers to leave behind. It is not tied to what she owns, where she works, or even the title she holds. It is defined by the impact she makes, the lessons she teaches, and the love she leaves in her wake. Grace and grit are often seen as opposites, one soft, the other unyielding. But for a simple woman with big standards, these qualities coexist in perfect harmony, creating a unique strength that sets her apart. She understands that life demands both the elegance to navigate challenges with dignity and the toughness to face those challenges head on without flinching. Grace is her outward presence. It's the calm she carries even in the face of adversity. It's the poise she shows when others expect her to fall apart. Her grace is not weakness, nor is it the absence of struggle. It is the quiet strength to remain composed when life throws its hardest punches. She doesn't let anger or frustration dictate her actions. Instead, she responds with thoughtfulness, understanding that grace is not just for others, it's a gift she gives herself. But behind that grace lies grit. Grit is the fire in her soul, the determination that keeps her moving forward when the path gets steep and rocky. It's the resolve to fight for her dreams, her family, and her values, even when the odds are stacked against her. Her grit shows in the way she picks herself up after every fall, the way she refuses to quit, and the way she turns obstacles into stepping stones. This combination of grace and grit allows her to balance strength and softness, power and humility. She doesn't feel the need to choose between being kind and being strong. She is both. She knows that grace without grit can lead to complacency, and grit without grace can lead to bitterness. Together, they make her unstoppable. Her grace is evident in the way she treats others. She listens with empathy, speaks with kindness, and gives without expecting anything in return. But her grit is what ensures she is not taken advantage of. She sets boundaries, stands up for herself, and protects what matters to her. She can forgive, but she does not forget the lessons that life teaches her. In her work, grace and grit come together to make her a force to be reckoned with. Her grace allows her to collaborate, inspire, and lead with compassion, while her grit pushes her to excel, to innovate, and to persevere. She doesn't shy away from challenges or shrink in the face of criticism. Instead, she meets them head on, armed with the confidence that comes from knowing she has the strength to overcome anything. When life tests her, she leans on both grace and grit. Her grace allows her to accept what she cannot change, while her grit drives her to change what she can. She knows that hardships are inevitable, but she refuses to let them define her. She views every trial as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become even stronger. Her grace and grit are also reflected in her relationships. She loves deeply and unconditionally, but she also holds those she loves accountable. She gives second chances but expects growth. She is forgiving but not naive. She understands that love is not just about feelings but about action, commitment, and resilience. This balance of grace and grit is what makes her a role model to others. She shows that it's possible to be gentle without being weak, to be strong without being harsh, and to pursue your goals without losing your humanity. She doesn't just survive, she thrives, and she does so with a strength that inspires everyone around her. Grace and grit are not separate forces in her life, they are two sides of the same coin. Together, they give her the courage to face life's battles, the wisdom to know when to push and when to push and when to pause, and the strength to remain true to herself no matter what. In conclusion, a simple woman with big standards is a force of nature. She is proof that power doesn't have to be loud, that strength can coexist with humility, and that purpose outweighs the pursuit of perfection. Through her unshakable identity, unwavering standards, clarity and simplicity, focus on legacy and balance of grace and grit, she embodies a life well lived, authentic, intentional, and impactful. To the world, she may appear simple, but her impact is anything but. Her life speaks volumes, leaving behind lessons, inspiration, and a legacy that will echo long after she's gone. Let us all take a page from her story, live with purpose, stand firm in our values, and strive to leave the world better than we found it.